We are going to discuss about objectivity and reflexivity in social sciences today. So, objectivity, if you remember, Weber's Verstehen method was he said that the researcher has to be value neutral or value free. What is this value? So, values are what we have been taught in the process of socialization, what values we got from the society that we live in. It creates a prejudice. For example, an Indian person going for a research abroad may find it contrasting to see the kind of clothes the person, the people are wearing there as compared to what people in India wear. So, there is a contrast in culture. What happens now? If he lets this preconceived notion to get attached to his attitude and therefore his research, the research will not be value neutral or value free because it will have a prejudice or a bias. That is, he has this preconceived notion from his own culture and he will not be able to see the other culture with objectivity. So, how do you do it? You do it when you keep your values aside and you see things as they are. For example, a tree is green. When you see a tree is green, there is no bias. You are not talking about something that is not true. You are seeing the tree as it is. You are not putting any value that is yours completely into that statement. Therefore, this statement is value neutral. Coming to the next point, reflexivity in social sciences. So, what is this reflexivity? Reflexivity is when we really put our thoughts into something, when we reflect on something in lay terms. We'll start with this, but let me warn you, reflexivity and reflection are two very different things. Please do not combine them. But this is just to tell you or give you a brief introduction about this. What happens is when you have some kind of subjectivity. And why do you need subjectivity in your research? When your research is qualitative in nature, you do need subjectivity. What happens? You record and write all your beliefs, your attitudes, your values, everything that you have, and this becomes a part of your research. But the twist here is while subjectivity is the center of the research, cause and effect also play an important role, that is reflexivity. The problem here becomes your own background and your socialization process can be in contrast or can be very different with that of the subject group. So, what do you do now? You do nothing, but you try to be aware of your own beliefs and biases. Okay, example, if you are a person of Asian origin and you are visiting an American society, there will be many cultures, many ideas, beliefs, ways of living that will be very different from what you have seen all your life. So you have to be critically aware of your own beliefs, your biases, and you have to know that your background, your values, beliefs, the attitudes that you carry, they are going to play a part in the research. So, what do? You observe and you write. So when you write, you kind of reflect. So there is a personal reflection that is recorded and it is used in the study. So what happens? You go to the field and you find out the real deal there. Okay, you find out the reality because it is very easy to sit here at home and talk about some society that I've never visited. But once, as a researcher, I go out to that society and when I try to research about them, there will be many cases when my own ideas will be on contrast with them. But what I have to do is I just have to observe what is happening there. I have to take account of them. I have to write them. So now there can be three types of this reflexivity. First is personal, that is confessional or realist stories. Confessional, that you observe what is happening there in the field work. Methodological, where you use it as a reminder to let you know about the procedure, the interpretation, the notes, hypothesis, and what happens as a result is your personal experience, whatever you are experiencing there, it finally and gradually it becomes an instrument to public knowledge, your transformation of intuition, because when you are seeing things there is a kind of intuition as well. You think they are doing something because they have such and such reasons, and then you interrelate them, and then you document all of this. You document your experiences, the writings, and you tell how you dealt with the knowledge that you gained that field. Another important point is there is an audit trail which talks about transparency. They cross question the researcher that why did you make the choices that you did, sorry. The choices that the researcher made, they are asked, cross questioned, tallied, that why did you do this? Why did you pick so and so research, so and so subject, so and so area? So there has to be a transparency. Now, this kind of reflexivity is also used in theoretical ways, but this is very difficult to tell actually. When you're talking about theory, it shows a display of biases and prejudice, but it is kind of a blind spot. Why? Because it is very difficult to tell about yourself what kind of bias or what kind of prejudice that you're carrying. For example, if a person is there who's a racist, will he ever confess to this that yes, I was a racist and even then I went to a field where I had to study about people who were different from my own race? He's not going to accept it. Therefore, it is very difficult for the researcher to tell about his own bias. Now, there are two levels of reflexivity. When the person, the individual or the researcher, is influenced very much by his environmental and socialization, then his mind will be full of biases, values, prejudices. Then the reflexivity level will be very low because he will not be able to relate the cause and effect. On the other hand, the level of reflexivity will be high if the researcher or individual, he has created his own beliefs and ideas. He has this autonomy. His ideas and beliefs are not influenced by the environment. Then how will it be helpful? It will be helpful because he will be able to identify the cause and effect relationship between the events. Coming to the conclusion, we can say that reflexivity leads to greater awareness. Why? Because first you understand what are your own biases. Then you think, you critically, analyze that I should not use this bias in the research. This is also very important that the role of researcher here in the field, with his experiences, with his subjectivity, with his observation, documentation, it leads to construction of knowledge which is later given to the larger audience. Knowledge comes out as a result of researchers' observation, assumption, intuitions, and the choices that the researcher has made. It plays a big role here as a writer and as an observer, because only that will lead to the creation of knowledge. So he has to be very careful about the choices he's making. If you are not tolerant towards a race or a religion, then the researcher should not spend time or even think about proceeding with the research. Why? Because his biases which will interfere with the research. Now let us discuss some questions. Question number 1 is, what is the benefit of reflexivity? So the answer is D. It allows participants to be self-aware, because when you need to find the causal relationship between people, between events, subjects or anything like that, first of all you have to be self-aware and acknowledge what you are lacking, where you are critical, where your biases lie. Next question. A reflexive business researcher will be inclined to write about. The answer is A. He will be very inclined to write about what? The effects that values, biases, and theoretical learnings might have upon the data collection and analysis. Because if there is low reflexivity, there will be a problem. But if there is high reflexivity, then the research is going to be smooth because there is very low or no impact of the prejudice, the environment that the researcher was brought up in. So I hope you got the lecture. Thank you for watching.